Hey everyone, and welcome back to Viana Home. Let's talk about the American dream for a second. That classic image of owning your own place, a little patch of the world that's all yours. The key to that dream, for most of us, is a mortgage. But what if I told you that for many people, that key doesn't unlock a dream, but a 30-year financial trap? It sounds intense, I know, but let's do some quick, terrifying math. Let's say you buy a $400,000 house. You get a loan, a mortgage, for that amount at a 7% interest rate for 30 years. How much do you think you'll pay back in total by the time it's all said and done? The answer is over $950,000. You heard me right. You borrow $400,000 and you pay back nearly $1 million. More than $500,000 of your hard-earned money vanishes into thin air. Or more accurately, into the bank's pocket. When you see a number like that, you have to ask the question, is a mortgage even worth it? Today, we're pushing aside the emotions and the dream chasing, and we are breaking down the cold, hard numbers. We're going to look at the good, the bad, and the very, very expensive reality of a mortgage, so you can decide for yourself if this 30-year commitment is the right move for you. To really get this, we have to start with the dark side. We have to understand why a mortgage can feel like a nightmare. The number one reason is that giant, scary number we just talked about, interest. When you get a mortgage, the bank gives you a huge chunk of money, and in return, you promise to pay them back with interest. That interest is their profit, and the way they collect that profit is through something called amortization. It's a fancy word, but the concept is simple, and it's kind of brutal. Think of it like this. In the beginning of your loan, your monthly payment is like a pizza. A tiny little sliver of that pizza goes towards paying down your actual loan, the principal. But the rest of the pizza, the vast majority of it, gets eaten by interest. For a 30-year mortgage, it's not until year 15 or 16 that you finally cross the halfway point where more of your money is going to your house than to the bank. For the first decade, you are basically just a profit-generating machine for the lender. You're making these huge payments every month, but your loan balance is barely budging. It can feel like you're running on a financial treadmill, working so hard just to stay in the same place. That $500,000 in interest? This is where it comes from. Decades of you paying the bank before you truly start paying for your own home. The second reason a mortgage can be a trap is what I call the golden handcuffs. A 30-year mortgage is a massive commitment. It ties you financially and geographically to one specific spot on the map. What if a dream job opportunity opens up across the country? What if you meet someone and want to move to their city? What if you just decide you hate the weather and want to change the scenery? It's not as simple as just packing up and leaving. Selling a house is expensive. You've got realtor commissions, closing costs, and other fees that can eat up 6 to 10% of the sale price. Because of that, and because of how little equity you build in the early years, most experts say you need to stay in a home for at least 5 to 7 years just to break even. A mortgage can seriously limit your life's flexibility, chaining you to a place long after you might be ready to move on. And that brings me to the third big problem, becoming house poor. This is when you can technically afford your mortgage payment, but just barely. So much of your monthly income is eaten up by your PITI, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that you have very little money left for anything else. You can't afford to travel. You can't invest for retirement as much as you should. You can't take risks like starting your own business. You can't even go out to dinner with friends without feeling stressed. All your wealth is trapped in the walls of your house. You have a high net worth on paper, but your actual cash flow is terrible. You own a home, but in a way, the home owns you. It dictates your life choices and limits your freedom. Okay, I know, that was bleak. It sounds like I'm telling you to just rent forever and never even think about buying a house. But that's not the whole story. Remember, we're here for the real talk, and that means looking at both sides. Because for all its downsides, a mortgage can also be an incredible, powerful, golden ticket to building wealth. So let's flip the script. The first and maybe most important pro is that a mortgage is essentially a forced savings account. When you pay rent, where does that money go? It goes to your landlord, and you will never ever see it again. 100% of it is an expense. But when you make a mortgage payment, even in those early years when most of it goes to interest, a small piece of it pays down your principal. That little piece is called equity. It's the part of the house that you actually, truly own. Every single month for 30 years, you are forced to save money by building equity. It might feel slow at first, but over time, it adds up to a massive asset. You are slowly but surely converting your income into wealth. Renters don't have that. At the end of 30 years of paying rent, you have nothing to show for it but receipts. At the end of 30 years of paying a mortgage, you own a whole house, free and clear. The second reason a mortgage is so powerful is a concept called leverage. This sounds complicated, but it's the secret sauce of real estate. Leverage means you get to control a very large, expensive asset with a relatively small amount of your own money, your down payment. Let's go back to that $400,000 house. Let's say you put 5% down, which is $20,000. Now you control a $400,000 asset. If, over the next year, the housing market goes up and your home's value appreciates by just 5%, your house is now worth $420,000. That's a $20,000 gain. But think about it. You only put in $20,000 of your own cash, so you made a $20,000 profit on a $20,000 investment. That is a 100% return in 1 year. You simply cannot get that kind of return in the stock market with that little money down. You use the bank's money to make yourself a huge profit. That is the magic of leverage, and it's how so many people build serious, life-changing wealth through real estate. Finally, a mortgage gives you stability and an inflation shield. With a fixed-rate mortgage, your principal and interest payment is locked in. It will be the exact same number on day one as it will be 29 years later. Can you say the same thing about rent? Absolutely not. Rent almost always goes up year after year after year. Your mortgage payment stays predictable and stable, making it easier to budget. And over time, as inflation makes everything else more expensive, your housing payment effectively gets cheaper in comparison. You've locked in your biggest living expense in today's dollars, while your income will hopefully grow over the next 30 years. It's a powerful hedge against rising costs. So, after all that, is a mortgage worth it? The honest and maybe frustrating answer is it depends entirely on you. A mortgage is a financial tool, and like any powerful tool, it can be used to build something amazing, or it can cause a lot of damage if it's used the wrong way. That insane amount of interest is absolutely worth it if you use the power of leverage to build wealth through appreciation, and you take advantage of the forced savings to build equity. It's worth it if you plan to stay in one place long enough to ride out the initial interest-heavy years and transaction costs. But it is absolutely not worth it if it makes you house poor, trapping you in a lifestyle you can't afford. It's not worth it if you value flexibility and the freedom to move and take risks. And it's definitely not worth it if you haven't budgeted for all the other costs of homeownership we've talked about before. The dream isn't the mortgage. The dream is financial freedom and a safe, happy place to live. For some people, a mortgage is the best path to get there. For others, renting and investing the difference is the smarter play. The key is to know the numbers, know yourself, and make a decision with your eyes wide open. I really hope this breakdown helped demystify the mortgage and gave you a clear picture of what you're really signing up for. It's a huge decision, and having all the facts is the most important thing. If you appreciate this kind of real talk about home and finance, and you want to be part of a community that's figuring it all out together, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button for the Viana Home channel. I've got a question for you all. What is your biggest fear or biggest excitement when you think about getting a mortgage? Let's talk about it in the comments. Thanks for getting into the numbers with me today. I'll see you in the next one.